All right, welcome everybody to today's Newsday Tuesday. Video Guys Newsday Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You give us about 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to teach you about the technology we sell, new products, what's going on in the industry today. Very important show. We're really psyched. We've got a great guest, NewTek Zone. Dr.Cross is here to tell us all about what's new at NewTek, what's new at NDI, where the future is. This guy's revolutionizing the industry. We're going to get to that on the show in a moment, but first I want to welcome you. Welcome, Dr. Cross.
It's my pleasure to be here. Listen, I'm excited to be on your show.
Thank you. And one of the things we want to do is let's bring up the schedule so we can show people what we have, the format for the show. Okay, so just to run through the things we're going to do so you can get an idea of it, we're going to start now with the part that we're really excited about. Happy birthday, NDI. 3 years old. We think that's real significant. You know, it's amazing how far things have come in 3 years. And I like to tell this little story if I could. And it was 3.5 years ago when I was at the NAB show and Dr. Cross sat me down. It was at the NewTek reseller event, if you'll recall. And you said, hey, Gary, you know, what have you seen? What do you think of the big things at this show? And I said, well, the two things that are on my radar are 4K and IP. And it's funny, you chuckled a little bit. You said, well, you're half right. And you proceeded to take out a cocktail napkin and explain to me how IP was really the big thing and how 4K wasn't going to be possible without IP, or IP was going to make 4K more possible, quicker for more people. And I just laughed because then all of a sudden you're making these announcements at IBC and your team's calling to tell me all about what's going on. I'm like, I just didn't know it was called NDI. Dr. Cross gave me the inside scoop 6 months ago.
That's exactly right. And you know, I still believe that you know, to me, 4K is a step up the resolution chain. It just takes HD and makes it better. At the same time, IP is something that has the real opportunity to really disrupt things. It's not just, hey, we have more of something. It is, hey, this changes the whole way we work. And I think that, you know, when both are important, and, you know, there are lots of important things generally going on in the industry, but I do think that the move to IP is probably one of the biggest shifts that we are going to see. I actually gave a talk about this at IBC, and it's not just about the shift to IP. It's much more about the shift to computer-based technologies, and IP is one of them. And in the same way that you know, Apple, a computer company, revolutionized the phone industry, and we ended up moving from traditional phone handsets to basically it's now all computers. It's you know, if you think about it, Apple, Samsung, and Google are the 3 big phone companies. They're all computing companies. The same is going to happen to our industry, and you know, that is the change that there will be no coming back from. So you know, 4K pales into insignificance when compared to that, even though on its own it is an important change.
And I think you're being a little too modest, because while IP is the big overall umbrella we're talking about, what's actually doing this today is NDI. And it's really making an impact. We use NDI in our studio. We've got customers all over the world using NDI. And what we're seeing very quickly is outside of the video production space, people are catching on that this NDI thing is special. And it's anything that's video. We see it, it's going to, I'm not going to say destroy, but it's going to completely disrupt digital signage, and you got to think it's going to do the same in AV conference rooms, and just the way Final Cut democratized, you know, video editing. You could almost say that NDI is going to do the same for video, more than video production, just video everywhere. And I got to hand it to you. That's all on you, Dr. Cross.
Well, you know,
I know you've got a team who works with you, but
absolutely. I mean, you know, I think that we just, you know, NewTek, it's not really, we don't do it as a business. It happens to pay us, but you know, the reality is we do a lot of things that we believe in, and our goal has always been to try to revolutionize the way video is done. We've always believed in using computers to do it, and to us, IP and moving to IP was a natural thing. Potentially taking it and giving it away and making it accessible to everybody was a daring step for us to take, but clearly it was the right one. And you know, so I'm very proud of where it's come, and I'm kind of surprised about where it's come. I mean, I you know, for the first 1.5 or 2 years or so, you know, I used to talk to the people here and kept saying, well, I don't think we've made it yet. I kind of feel like we've made it now. I think that, you know, NDI, that it would be hard to see NDI not becoming bigger and not starting to revolutionize all sorts of areas outside of just the traditional kind of prosumer and professional video that NewTek exists in.
For sure. So let's jump right ahead from the big NDI stuff, and a happy birthday once again. But let's talk about the IBC announcements and NewTek new products. What'd you guys show last week at the IBC show?
Well, related to NDI, we showed Spark Connect Pro, which is, I should have brought one with me. It's a box about that big that is, a 4K NDI to IP converter. And even when I see it today, it still kind of blows my mind. I mean, it is amazing that you can hook up a 4K, a HDMI cable to it. And the reason we chose HDMI for 4K is just that every camera out there, every DVD player, everything, if it supports 4K, supports HDMI 4K. And so, we wanted to make something that people can actually use today.
Yep.
So you can take this thing, you can plug it in, you can plug in an Ethernet cable on the other end, and now you've got 4K video anywhere on your Ethernet. And the thing that just still blows me away is that this doesn't require 10 gig, it doesn't require crazy powerful computers. You could just sit there with a laptop and watch 4K video just flowing over the, the Ethernet cable, and that still almost feels like science fiction to me.
It's great that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, well, higher end companies are pushing that it's got to be 10 gig or even 40 gig, and I think that's kind of, it's wrong for what we're doing. And one of the things that I think we fail to tell people is you can gang up to 1 gigs if you just need a little bit extra bandwidth, because the switch can handle it. And I think one of the things that I'd say is a missing piece for NDI is we really got to focus in on a few switchers or routers, that are the right products to guide customers in, because that's one of the areas that we find is the biggest challenge for us over here. Is a guy will say, but what do I need to run my network with? And network switches, with PoE range from $1,000 to $10,000. So I think we got to come up with a little matrix grid for some better guidance for folks.
Yes, and I'm always kind of stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place on this, because on one hand, our philosophy is we want NDI to work on anything. The goal isn't that this requires complicated switches that are expensive. We want it to work on anybody's network, and so I kind of consider it as somewhat of a personal failure if there is a device that it doesn't work on. But what you're saying is also entirely true, which is that definitely there are switches that work better than others. Getting a real-time video network to work well and reliably is something that does require some effort. And so that there's probably some balance that we've got to get better ourselves. But this is where people like yourselves are just so incredibly valuable and provide so much, kind of value add, is that you help guide people on the areas where people like us tend to fail them. So, my hat's off to you. I
was going to jump in and say we will pick up our share of that, and I think together we can solve that issue. Now, you talked about the Connect Spark Pro, but let's also talk about something very exciting. That's the software for graphics that you have, because we've always been in love with the graphics we all see on Monday Night Football and the stuff that people can do. And there's big companies like VizRT and Chiron Higo who make these phenomenal graphics systems, but they require kind of like a PhD to operate them. You guys have once again solved that problem, because now if you know Adobe Premiere and After Effects, you can create spectacular animated graphics. Tell us about that a little bit.
So that's right, and live graphics, quite honestly, when it comes to NewTek live production switches, I believe that this is maybe, and it might not be seen this way, but I believe that it's one of the biggest jumps and the biggest changes that we have made ever. And I think that, we started producing integrated production systems, 20 years ago, maybe, give or take. And all these pieces, kind of got integrated. We had titles, basic titles, DDRs, switches, some effects, and things like this. And they allowed you to produce a show, and they allowed one guy to produce it, and you could do pretty well. But the thing that really sets the high-end broadcast apart has always been that they have a graphic look that is really very good. It requires an awful lot of effort, very expensive tools, a lot of time, and a lot of trained operators to actually put something like that together. And so, really one of the missing pieces in terms of making anybody look like a broadcaster is to put that together. And there's a reason that it's taken this long. I mean, and it's not just NewTek. I mean, all the products like ours and have the same limitation. And doing the kind of graphics that people at the companies you mentioned do is really quite hard. And then on top of that, you have this problem where even if you can somehow render that and make it all operate in real time, actually making it so that it's accessible to users is a whole different problem. And so we've spent years talking about this, and I remember 5 or 6 years ago actually thinking that there's no longer a space to make another complex graphic system. If NewTek want to go there, we've got to work out how to do it differently and how to make it unique and how to do something that really shakes this up and changes the way it's done. And that's how we came up with this idea that we shouldn't try to create a proprietary set of tools for creating complicated animated pages. It would be far better to allow users to use the tools they already have. And and that's how this crazy idea of trying to get basically data out of After Effects and render it in real time and allow all the elements to be changed out and fly things off, fly things on, allow you to bring in different page elements was born, and that's live graphics. And honestly, this thing has been in the making for a very long time now, so it's just super exciting for me to see it actually coming to market. This is really a cool product, and there's far more to it than probably anybody ever imagines.
And for us, what we see is great is all the under the hood stuff is great that you did. What we like is anyone who knows After Effects or Premiere can now be a part of that team and operate and create some spectacular stuff, where in the past it really took a high level of training and expertise to create those kind of graphics. So that's a great one. We're really excited about it. Are there any other NewTek specific announcements before we get into the bigger NDI picture from IBC?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we were showing, Premium Access, which live graphics is part of, and just to describe Premium Access. I mean, I think that anybody who's been around NewTek knows that we have this crazy pace of bringing new stuff out and trying to, shake things up and add new capabilities. And one of the problems we've faced over the years is that every piece we add adds another thing we need to explain to people, another thing we need to market, another thing we need to help explain how you purchase and so on. And it occurred to me that we needed to just start making a formula by which we can deliver the latest technology that we come up with and the latest innovation that we create to our customers more directly. And that's kind of what Premium Access is. And really it's a way for us to continue to make our products better and not need to say, hey, we added live graphics, that's going to cost this, and you buy it this way and you license it this way, and much better make a way that we can just find a way to get all of this stuff to customers. So obviously as the first part of that, we have live graphics, but there's a lot of other stuff there. We have integration with full Dante and AES67 devices, which means that you can take things like it allows you to digitally mix everything externally if you want, so you really can end up with a full IP. I mean, obviously we solve all the video side, but there's really great products on the audio side, and so offering integration with those is really valuable. Things just like our KVM solution, the KVM built in, and I know lots of people, I know that when I came out with this and was saying how cool it was to everybody around the company, everybody kind of wondered what I'd been smoking. I know, but then we showed it at NAB, and our trade show team came back and said, wow, the absolute coolest feature in everything you've done is KVM. And I'm like, see, I told you so. Because what it means is that you're no longer tied to the, typically we make these rack mount systems and then you end up tied to them in some way, whether that means that they have to be in the room where you're doing the production, or you have to work out how to get the cables backwards and forwards on the video, and it's complicated. Now you could just put it in a room, put it on the network, and then run the whole thing on a laptop, for instance, or on a tablet. So and the performance of it is really, really awesome as well. This really solves some real world problems. And everybody who's used it just loves it, and so I think that's a big thing. We've put a lot of effort into making the UI easier and more touch friendly. That's important too. I think that we're increasingly seeing that touch is going to be important, and maybe all touch. For a show that maybe sounds a tiny bit risky still, but definitely heading far more that direction than we have in the past. And so, we've really done a lot.
Cool. And I see one of our viewers asked, will KVM work on a Mini Advanced?
So we have not yet, and that's maybe a hint that I shouldn't give, announced anything around what we're doing with these capabilities and the existing systems. And I can say, and we absolutely care about everybody using our existing systems, and I can't announce anything yet, but just take take that as my subtle hint, I guess,
It did.
that I'm going to get in trouble with marketing for dropping. So.
That's the risk they take when they let the big guy on the show.
I know when they unlock me and let me out the door, this is the risk they take.
So let's really open it up and let the genie out of the bottle. Let's talk about the state of NDI. I like to say it's an NDI world, and let's talk about some of the NDI stuff we've seen at the show that's not from NewTek, but from partners. Partners like, PTZ Optics, Bird Dog, Wirecast, it's Atomos. There were some really big announcements that had to do with NDI that weren't in your booth. They were in other people's booths.
Yeah, that's the coolest part of all of this. And I'll tell you, something that blew me away, and I'm not sure that anybody realized this, is we did this NDI developers meeting on our booth on, I forget what day, the jet lag killed me, but we showed up and there were like 300 or 400 people there, but maybe more importantly is if you knew a lot of the people in the industry, almost all the big names from all the big companies were there. I mean, we had key people from every major manufacturer there. So if you just wanted a industry networking event, I mean, everyone was there. But to answer your question, I mean, there was some exciting stuff. I mean, I think that clearly Atomos announcing NDI support is huge. Atomos make awesome products. We're just super pumped to be working with them. They're a company that I think share a lot of NewTek DNA in that they like doing exciting stuff. They like pushing the limits.
Disrupting.
And so having them on board with, that's right. And so we have a huge affinity for them, and we use their products. So love that. Magewell coming out with their NDI converters. That's awesome as well. Just love Magewell. Great people, great company. Really make great products. Bird Dog continue to really up the ante. I mean, their products, and they're really starting to put together a workflow that goes really pretty deep there. I mean, I think that the introduction of their cameras, and when you start to see how it all integrates together with their intercom system and so on, that's really very cool as well. And then beyond that, there were just so many software announcements. Almost anywhere you went on the show floor, you saw NDI products, NDI logos, on companies that we, quite frankly, have probably not even aware of, and so that that's exciting.
Yep, like we like to say, it's an NDI world now, so it's super exciting times with that, and that's really cool that you've done that. Now, the next topic we're going to go to is what, the future of NDI? Am I jumping ahead here? Okay, now we want to talk about the future, and this is where your marketing people are probably going to get very upset, but I'm going to ask you to tip your hand a little bit about what the future of NDI is, and I want to first start it off with a product that we've gotten requests from numerous times from our customers, and that is our workflow. Funny we mentioned Atomos, is we actually have a Sumo set up, and we record the output of the show right to a Sumo, so we can have it be right in ProRes, and then we take it right off the cartridge that's in the back of our Sumo, we bring it into our edit suite, and we edit away, no transcoding. What I've heard requests for is, wouldn't it be neat if Adobe Premiere or Avid or other products, if they were on the network, could record the program via NDI, and you could have basically NDI capture of ISO streams or the finished output, or both at the same time, depending on the power of your computer. So I'm not saying you have to have it tomorrow. If you did, it would be great, but that's the one that I want to kick off the future with.
Okay, so something that I actually announced at the NDI developer meeting, and it is rare that we do this, but I did announce that in NDI version 4 that we are going to make the recording of NDI streams basically freely available for everybody.
Way to go.
And the reason I announced that is because I believe that this, in much the same way as NDI was a disruptive technology, I think that when you kind of conceptually think about what NDI is, what it's done is it's moved. I mean, NDI is compressed video, and it's moved the compression to all of the endpoints, and then the video kind of flows over the IP infrastructure. And so it is relatively natural that you should be able to take it off that IP infrastructure and just store it on disk. And there should be really no overhead in doing that, because no compression is needed. So you aren't limited by really how many streams you should be able to get. You should be able to have as many streams as you want, and you should be able to store them on disk. And as long as you've got the network bandwidth and the disk bandwidth, you should be able to store as many streams as you want. And once you start thinking about this, it starts to kind of change the kind of what the whole IP video and networking infrastructure is in terms of video, because once you're storing it on disk, and then you somehow can take it out and send it out in, back onto that ether. There's not really much difference between live video, non-live video. It just becomes a real-time mechanism of moving video around, and you have access to all streams, both current ones and past ones. And that, that really starts to change the way that you think about live video.
Yeah, and I just want to interrupt you for a second because one of our viewers jumped in, Chad, and he asked about NDI with games and esports. And I know that's an area where we're seeing NDI be used. So I want to throw that out to you a little bit if you could talk a little about NDI and esports, because I think that's kind of where you were going anyway.
Well, NDI is already hugely used in esports. I mean, almost every major games vendor who does large streams uses NDI in some way. We work closely with Twitch. I just looked the other day, things like the OBS plugin for NDI that we didn't write. It was written by a great developer out there, and he put that online. That's been downloaded tens of thousands of times now. So NDI is widely used in esports, and I don't want to tip my hat too far, but I can tell you that some of the technologies we're working on there are going to make it even more applicable. I mean, this is clearly a massively growing area, and it is something that we're going to do some pretty exciting stuff in, both with NDI and things that we believe can just make e-gaming and the production of e-gaming a lot better.
And those guys care a lot about things like delays and latency, so I can tell that you guys are working on shortening that as well.
That's correct, and the reason I kind of took a pause there is I think the latencies around streaming and around production are actually kind of a complicated thing. I think that everybody wants low latency, but there's some trade-offs with going to low latencies. But NDI in itself is very low latency. In fact, probably one of the coolest demos I've seen, and anybody who was IBC will have seen this, was that we on our booth put a camera up with the Spark Connect Pro converting it, and we put it side by side with the NDI feed with an SDI feed, and allowed people to kind of wave their hands around and see the difference, and ask them, both in terms of quality and in terms of latency, which one was which, and you just really could not even tell the difference, in all honesty.
Cool. Now, you mentioned the Connect Spark Pro. We're going to pull it up there. It's going to be a $995 product. Can you give us any kind of hint of when you think that'll be shipping to us, Dr. Cross, without having your production people ready to kill you?
I get in trouble no matter what. It is really, 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 really soon. That's the best I can say. To me, I never want to ship something till it's ready, and ready doesn't necessarily mean, hey, the product works without crashing. It means that you have all the right cables, and you have the box looking nice, and every last little detail that we documented, how you get the thing working and so on the website. And there's just a lot of little pieces that go into it, and shipping a product is a combination of getting all of that stuff. And we are down to the last period, the end of the last sentence kind of thing with Spark Connect Pro.
I got to compliment you on that product. We've got the TC1 has 16 NDI inputs, and I thought that was great, and it does 4K P60, which I thought was great. This is truly the product that brings that to reality, where now you can do a multi-camera 4K production, and the sky's the limit. I dare anyone to get to 16 so quickly, but even 3 or 4, I mean, it's a piece of cake. You get 3 or 4 of these converters, you put them right on the HDMI outputs of your cameras, and you're in business. And that's just remarkable from where we were just a year ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Spark Connect Pro is one of the products that makes kind of the 4K IP dream reality. And so while it might be seen as kind of an incremental step in some ways, it very much isn't. I think that it's going to be one of the few things that actually really makes 4K, really feasible for real people. And the fact that we chose HDMI is important there, because this means that you can go out and find actual cameras that you can afford that might actually work well.
Cool. And I think, I don't want to give away too much secret sauce, but there's different flavors of NDI. There's NDI HX, there's NDI, and now I think with the Connect and others, where actually you've got chips that are now doing the work, so it's really a native NDI. Can you go into the little differences of what those are briefly, because we've been about 25 minutes into the show already?
Absolutely. So, when we launched NDI 3 years ago, we we launched basically, it was a relatively high bit rate, compressed, iframe only codec that achieved very high quality, very low latency. Then about, a year and a half ago, we introduced NDI-HX, and the goal was to have very slightly higher latency, but at the benefit of significantly reducing the bandwidth. And so HX is kind of the high efficiency. That's what the HX stands for. And then there's the original NDI that was high bandwidth but much lower latency. And Spark Connect Pro is a full NDI product, so it's basically zero latency, super high quality. But at the slight downside that it's pushing, because it does 4K, 200 plus megabits a second per stream. Actually a tiny bit over that even. So it's heavier to move around, but the upside is you get lower latency and high quality.
One of the things that we're very excited about as far as the future of NDI is we've mainly talked about NDI as something that takes video and converts it to NDI. But now at the show, we're starting to see devices that are two-way or the other way. So we know the BirdDog guys now have two-way where they can go NDI out to SDI or HDMI, and then you guys slipped one by everyone that's thrown completely under the radar, and that's Panasonic's got some monitors that are NDI monitors. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's where I think something like digital signage is going to be revolutionized.
Well, for those who might or might not have noticed this, within Studio Monitor in recent versions, and I hope everybody's tried this, that it can be controlled from a web device. So if you launch a copy of Studio Monitor, it has a little QR code in the bottom left when it launches, and if you scan this on your phone, you basically get remote control over Studio Monitor. And the purpose of this was to start to make it accessible for signage and for that kind of use. And so we clearly see an opportunity. If you just think about typical signage installations, 20 years ago, they were relatively easy to set up because analog video, you can run long distances, it's all relatively easy, no problems. And then, kind of HDMI comes along. We have great TVs, they're really cheap, they're really big, but cabling it all together is a huge problem. Yep. You're limited to a few feet, so you get forced into custom fiber, all sorts of crazy stuff. And so there's a clear opportunity for NDI to help revolutionize that, and that's something that we're acutely aware of and something that we're absolutely working on with people like Panasonic.
Awesome. Dr. Cross, this is a great show. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. Keep making these great products. Can't wait to see you in the near future. I know I'll be down in Texas the holiday time, so we'll definitely see you then. If you're up in New York, are you going to be
Absolutely.
in New York for the NAB New York show?
I do not know yet. I try to be, but then I get sucked into some exciting, crazy project I just want to get finished here. And I can tell you, we're working on some really crazy, cool stuff. Anybody who thinks that, hey, kind of we're done, no, we've got a long way still to go. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming, both in the products and with NDI.
Awesome. And we see that too. We've been just watching this NDI freight train take off, and it really is a freight train. Everyone's jumping aboard, and it's awesome where it's going, but this doesn't happen without some company taking the lead and being in that leadership role and constantly pushing the envelope. And that's what you guys are doing. You didn't just throw it out there, you made it available, but you're always pushing the envelope, always pushing it down the road. So thank you, Dr. Cross. Thank you, NewTek. Thank you, everyone at NewTek at the NDI and in the development team, because I know this doesn't happen by yourself. You've got a great bunch of people who work with you,
That's
too.
That's absolutely right.
So
that is completely true.
So once again, want to wish NDI a happy 3rd birthday again. If we can bring up the explosive graphics, we're so proud. 3 years in the making, how far it's come. Who knows where we'll be on birthday 5 or birthday 10, but I think that smile will be even bigger on your face by then, Dr. Cross.
Yes, that's right.
All right. At this point, Dr. Cross, we're going to say goodbye to you. I'm going to tell people what's coming up on the next show, or are we doing the products? Let's talk about the next show. Okay, the next shows. Here's what we have coming up on the next shows. We've got John Landman coming in from Teradek. He's going to be on the show when? I need my schedule. There it is. Okay, so October 2nd, BirdDog, IBC. We touched upon it with Dr. Cross a little bit. What's coming out of BirdDog for IBC? They were showing a full line of robotic PTZ cameras. They also had an NDI PTZ camera controller. So NDI PTZ cameras and NDI controllers, super exciting. We're going to try to get those crazy Aussies in here from Australia, which means it's the middle of the night with them. So We hope to do it. We're not promising it'll work, but we think we can get it off. The next time, October 9th, that's going to be John Lamon from TerraTech talking about some new products from those guys. They had a lot of cool announcements, some announcements with their regular line, Bolt, special versions with red and things like that. And then October 9th, 16th, we're going to do an NAB show in New York. There's a new NAB show. It's in New York. It's going to be, I think, the 3rd or 4th year they're doing it. We're pretty excited about that, so we're going to bring that in. And I just want to now, before we go, I just want to review the NewTek product line, go over what the products are, what their prices are, and stuff like that. So if we could bring that graphic up, that would be great. We got the TriCaster Mini line. The TriCaster Mini starts at $59.95. There's actually a version available for schools at under $5,000. That's $49.95. We've also got the standard TriCaster HDMI with the screen for previewing. And then we've got the SDI version as well. We've also got bundle kits that include a TriCaster Mini and a control surface and a travel case starting at $99.99. Next, we've got the TriCaster TC1. That's what we use here. Today's program is brought to you by the TriCaster TC1. That's how we brought Dr.Cross in by Skype. The TriCaster TC1 starts at $14,995 for the base unit, $19.95 with the control surface, plus there's a whole bunch of additional bundles available with different I/O and additional control surfaces and other options. Call us about that. We'll be happy to work with you to spec what's out there. And then we've got the whole NDI HX line of products. We've got the Connect Spark at $499.95. We've got the Spark, that's HDMI. We've got the Spark SDI, which is $799.95. And we've got the coming soon, the Spark Pro for $995. So we're super excited about that. Also, NewTek has their NDI HX camera, the PTZ camera. That's $26.99, all available from Videoguys.com. We want to thank you very much for today's show. We went a little bit over. Thank you again to Dr. Cross. Let's bring up that thank you for him. All right, thank you, Dr. Cross. Thank you, everyone, for watching the show. Videoguys.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m., Newsday Tuesday. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to teach you about the products we sell, how they work, what's new in the industry. I think today's show was a great show. Looking forward to coming back to you next week. This is Gary from Video Guys. Peace.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.